How are things going?
I'm going well, thanks. How are you going?
Yeah, well, sorry here. It's late. Well, it's later here. It's just gone 10 o'clock in the evening here in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, it's turning 5 here. So
But it's never too late for KeyForge. So thanks for joining me.
mhm.
I mean, since we last spoke, it's great because I'm now the undisputed chainbound champion of the world
I heard.
with a 100% win rate.
I've never lost in Chainbound either.
That's not bad. But so yeah,
I've never played in it, but
nah. Well, it was really cool actually. It's my first time actually, going to any of those sorts of events. So I think sort of the coaching session with you and the online play and playing with the guys at work has been really good, really handy. It meant I basically had minimal intimidation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because these guys are like, some of them are proper serious key forgers, as in they're quoting cards and effects just in chat, and I'm thinking I don't even know any of these cards. But they're very keen. So hence it was I was pleased to get some wins out of it.
I did put up my third podcast today, and I did some review for you for your for your tournament for your upcoming sealed deck stuff. So.
Yeah, that's gonna be really that's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
I didn't go like heavy into it because it was mostly about like the meta and like how the meta really only is composed of 2 types of decks. There's not like all this magic overlay like people try to do.
Okay.
But I thought the podcast was pretty good. I thought it was more meaty than not. So
you know what? I've got a lot of catching up to do. So I listened to your first one, but I think you're just churning out these podcasts now.
Yeah, my goal is to make one every other day.
That's a lot of KeyForge. So go on. So what are your on the sealed decks and everything else? What do you think? How do you think it's all going to look? What would you predict for the UK Vault Tour? Which for anyone listening back, so the rules of this one for the sealed event is you get 3 decks. They're all from the new expansion, and you choose your favorite one, and that's the only one you play in the main event. So what do you think we're going to sort of see come out of this?
Well, I think that in KeyForge you have a interesting element when you play sealed that like everybody's kind of on a level playing field for the most part. And with that said, with the new set coming out, like I think the same guidelines that go with what I do with a normal thing still apply. So I believe that you have to understand what you're looking at in the decks in terms of the decks, and you basically need to attack those decks in a way that is logical and fair for the environment that you're going into, right? So
okay,
you're not going to be playing against like top tier decks for the most part. There is the unlucky people that have to run into a guy that's playing like a library access and Nepenthe seed deck that they opened or whatever, and that's the minimal. You're not going to the minimal, like you're not going to see a lot of that kind of power level at the sealed events. So what you're looking for is when you open your 3 decks, I think the first thing that you have to really pull apart is the raw amber.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know what raw amber is, it is explained in detail in my podcast. But raw amber basically
just plug there to make sure everyone downloads and listens to Jupiter's podcast.
Yeah, I have a Fifth Planet KeyForge website that has all links to all the things I do now. I made a quick little website that is linked into Team Reapout. It's linked into all the stuff. But
well, I can bring this up. So let's bring it up on screen. So Fifth Planet KeyForge, right? So if I Google that.
Sure.
It doesn't come up as an immediate hit. So, but if I go via Team Reapout, right? So if I go to Team Reapout, here we go. I found it. So I'm just going to bring this up on the screen so we can admire your work.
Oh yeah, I've been putting I'm not a computer guy, so this is actually pretty. It's pretty new to me, and I don't want to say that it's perfect by any means, and I take constructive feedback if anybody finds any, but that's the website that basically I've been using. It has basic guidelines. It has, like, if you go over the tabs in the upper left corner, it gives you different pull downs and different things. It has my media, which it says podcast, but if you click on the podcast, it has links to my Twitch and my YouTube as well. There's a lot of stuff I've already done, but this is kind of me trying to organize it and put it in one place for you guys that have been asking me lots of questions. So hopefully,
Well, I found it. I found it where yeah, it's on screen now for anyone on stream. So hey, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been working on it. Like I said, I'm not the most computer savvy person in the world, but I do like to add. Like I'm trying to do as much as I can to help debunk the whole idea that teams have all these secrets and that we're trying to have our agenda and play our like data mines and all these things. Like it's kind of like I think ridiculous for people to feel that way, but I could still understand like how some people might come to the idea because of things in the past. So no, like I said, like we're not Magic the Gathering. Like, we never will be Magic the Gathering because their games are completely different. Even though some people want to try to keep making parallels and stuff, but I talk about that too. But like, I'm not a fan of the idea that we should be building cubes and doing all these things and screwing up the algorithms of what the game is. If that's what you want to do, just go play Magic still. Like I'm sure they love having people. Like they got plenty of them. But for KeyForge, like enjoy KeyForge for what it is, and like back to what we were talking about, the sealed event format is the thing that KeyForge I think does best because, like I said, all you really need to do when you're looking at your 3 decks is figure out what gives you the most raw amber. So that's amber printed on card and stuff. If you're over 10, you're really doing well. If you're over 15, you're doing great. So that's the first thing I look at. The second thing I look at is I look at amber control and expected amber. So like what cards are giving me gains, which cards are giving me losses, which cards are giving me steals, which cards are giving me captures, right? Amber control is kind of tricky sometimes because like when you play too much capture, you basically get to a point where your opponent really is just getting extra time to kill you because you're just holding their amber for them. It's not as effective as it is if you steal from them, right? Or if you make them lose the amber, because then the amber is back into the common pool and it's protected in the essence that they have to find other ways to generate more amber, right? So these are all important factors in your sealed deck prowess as well. But another thing that is kind of different in sealed deck is that you need a board presence. So you really need to have like I'd say 16 plus, maybe 17 plus creatures, because the board game in sealed is a lot more in play than it is in constructed, quote unquote. Like when I can bring a deck to a tournament, I can make the assessment whether or not it has enough things that are happening with the synergies in it to play less creatures, and that's okay because I've tested them and I've played them. In sealed deck environments, you really need to have a board presence to reap and to basically disrupt your opponent and basically put pressure on your opponent because it's all about amber rushing, like getting your amber made. So in the game there's 2 types of decks, and then when you play sealed, like the type of deck that you're going to see 90% of the time is going to be a tempo based deck. And the tempo based decks, like I said, the whole purpose of a tempo based deck is to basically out attrition your opponent's amber, right? Like you want to have more amber or gain or steal or manipulate amber to the effect to where you're getting to 18 before they're getting to 18. You do whatever you can, whether that's stealing, doing this or that, or whether it's playing grabber jammers and things that buff up their key count, like all these things shift the amber. Because if you want to think of it quote unquote in Magic terms, right, it's like 18 amber is your life total, and you want to basically get to that 18 before they get to it. So instead of losing points like you do in Magic, you're gaining points, right? So it's kind of inverse of itself. So if I'm at 18, you're at 18, and all of a sudden I play a jammer pack, all of a sudden you're not at 18, you're at 24, right? Because you have basically +2 for every key that you have to make. So you're shifting the game right there, just playing that one card by making you have to get 24 and I'm still at 18. So that's a positive gain for me, even though it's a negative thing. Like it's not a on the board kind of scene thing. So what you're doing is you're basically off balancing that count to 18 to make your keys and stuff, if that makes sense. Like might be a lot, but
yeah, that's cool. Well, I thought with that in mind, I thought I don't know if you got a screen on visual at the moment, but I've just got on the screen the deck that I took along to the Chainbound competition. So if you can see that, so this is Priesfeth, the Dominus of Vipers.
Okay, here we go. Isn't this deck you've been playing at work too?
I rotate, so I did deliberately play it at work. Same day actually, just to make sure I was familiar with it. I don't like to just at work play the strongest decks, because then it just becomes a bit boring. You don't really learn from that. I always rotate, but this is the one that's always sort of I really enjoyed, and it's had the best win rate. So I really like this deck. In short, it's what was really interesting is on the night. Although this has always felt like it's a deck that generates amber really quickly. On the night, it was just on fire. I mean, it's literally like smashing amber out and forging keys, I think. And winning fairly comfortably. Even in one game where my opponent managed to lock me in with Control the Weak on 3 turns, and I was still able to win that game. So I think it just shows it's quite an interesting deck. So what's your take on this one? Looking at the card listing from all the sorts of analysis that you do.
What I see here is failure to communicate. No, I'm just kidding. I see your general power level is really good. Your amber is over 10, so that's good. Your expected amber is kind of average, but still above the average, so that's not bad. You do have some artifact control, which I do like in any kind. What is your artifact control? It is, what is it? A smudge and
two smudges.
2 smudges. So your 2 smudges, which isn't the best, but it's something. So that's better than nothing in that respect. And then you do have like you like your amber rush on with the treasure maps and stuff. So I do like that. And the speed sigil plays to your favor because you have a lot of creatures like snudges and dodgers and stuff that come into play and want to use that right away.
Yeah.
So there is a good synergy with that and stuff. And then you are basically on an amber rush kind of strategy, not a control strategy. So you're basically looking across your houses to see how you can control that. You do have your board wipes with Coward's End if you need them. You do have smaller board wipes with Tendrils of Pain, which is nice. You do have Overlord Grekking, which is a beast on the board when he gets there. Blood of Titans is a good buff for like an Overlord or whatnot, so I can get behind that, even though it's 2 houses. And you have like you have enough poke control with your poison waves and your tendrils and stuff to kind of get rid of the smaller threats like the Martian threats and things like that. And then you have enough for the bigger threats. You have the Coward's End. So as long as their guys aren't having damage put on them, you have a good way of getting rid of them. So I like that as well. You have Silent Dagger, and you have Silent Dagger as well, which is a really sweet card.
It was so on the night, what tended to work well. I mean, first of all, the treasure maps are great, and I guess one thing I've learned fairly early on is that you don't effectively get punished for mulliganing in KeyForge because you're always pretty much going to draw back up to 6 anyway. So I can just mulligan until I can hopefully maybe just play a treasure map just out the bat as my first card. So get 4 amber just straight off the bat. And sort of generally what would happen is that I could very quickly leap ahead and sort of forge a key and maybe more amber, and it kind of then puts the opponent, similar to what you said earlier, that it's a race to 18, and if you're effectively going straight out the blocks and smashing it out, then it kind of puts the emphasis on your opponent to try and catch up with that. And the board wipes are also pretty effective because I didn't really have to worry about opponent creatures unless they had effects which were going to be damaging. I could just keep on with my advantage and turning out the amber. But then you got Coward's End, and suddenly in one game I had one opponent concede because I could play loot the bodies with a Coward's End just to and at the time I pretty much had no creatures out. He'd like played out loads of creatures and it just let me get back to board control and lots of amber. So it's just a nice, I just like the deck for that reason. It just felt like a fun deck to play on this occasion. I guess it all depends on what you come up against, right, in terms of other decks.
Right. Something I've seen a lot of times too, like when you're on the sales posts and stuff, people go, "Oh, my deck is like got 6 chains put on it because it's like 6-0 or whatever, this and that." A lot of the times you have to remember that a lot of these decks are coming out of like what I call like the small fish syndrome. Like it's like they're a big fish in their pond.
Yeah.
But their pond is pretty small compared to the ocean, right? So you really have to be able to identify your decks and what they're doing well in order to not get hosed by people's stats.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And then the level that the player is too. Like there's a big difference between buying a deck for me saying, "Oh, I win with this deck," and one that Dave plays and wins with, because Dave plays almost a flawless game every time he plays. So it's one of those things where I'm about to make a Wookiee mad. He might rip my arms off right here. about to win the game. So he's basically you know, like those kind of sale tactics and stuff like that are kind of the reason why I did the last podcast I did, because I don't want people to be buying decks going, oh, it's an OTK because it has lands in it.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
just because it has lands in doesn't mean it's an OTK. And a lot of people try to push that off sometimes, thinking, oh, like, you're going to see the land, you're going to see the library access, then the Penti Seed, you're going to see the key charge, and they're going, oh, this is a one-turn kill deck, but they don't have a phase shift. Like, they don't have a way to get out of, you know, the Logos house to get into the kill condition. So you have to basically spread it across 2 turns. And when I define combo deck in my right, I like to say, you know, I like to basically say it's going to take you to an inevitable victory. Like, your opponent no longer gets a chance to play the game. You win. So whether that's with a lock, like I mind barb you 6 times and you have no hand, or whether it's like a Scrambler Storm Skippy Time Hog lock, like those are hard kill, like 1-turn kill decks, and I don't mind seeing the tag on them. But everything else is really just a high synergy deck or a efficiency deck.
Sure.
That makes sense.
No, it does. And I mean, and I guess this is just a deck I feel comfortable with, and I guess it's because I've played it and know what's in it and what it can do, and when it's strong, that's why I feel comfortable with. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, that's what makes it, I guess. But you know, now I've got a decision to make, right? So the next sort of Chainbound or event I go to, do I play this deck and start just trying to build up the power level and see what happens with it, or do I try something different? So it's always those decisions to make.
Yeah, I think while you're riding this deck hot, you just push it to see how far it goes, right? Like ride it out as far as you can ride it, and because you know and you're comfortable with it and you play with it, it has answers to most of the stuff in the meta. I still think that if you ran into like a real lands deck, you might struggle, because you don't really have the things that stop it. You know, you have things that can delay it or procrastinate the effect of it, but I don't think you can actually stop it. But I could be wrong. You might be able to just outrace them too. It's always situational in how you make pools and stuff. But I can give you one to play against if you want.
Well, no, I was more interested in. I think you mentioned before that were you just trying out some decks.
Oh yeah, I have a 3 Hunting Witch, 3 Witch of the Eye deck, which has been actually lackluster.
Oh really?
Yeah, I just beat Wookiee with it, so he's probably not happy. But sometimes you just got to beat the Wookiee. Can't let the Wookiee win.
Well, I can hunt down your game. Are you trying it out again at all?
Oh no, I was waiting for you.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, well, let's break out this deck then for a game. So I'm just gonna I'll start a game up. Normal. I'll put the password in as Jupiter lowercase.
Okay.
So I've just started that, so you should be able to get in.
Is it? You said it's in casual? Yeah.
I think I'll put it in no competitive. I think.
Oh, there it is. I see it. Yeah.
So it'd be good if you get there first before we get stream sniped. There we go. So so no surprises. I'll select that deck. So we've been speaking about it.
All right. Well, I'm gonna mute you and minimize you. So I don't want you to lose the viewer count, but I'm going to talk to me in game. Here I go. I'll be able to hear you on Discord. I'm just not gonna. I don't want to see the game.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Minimize this thing. Why I want to go? Oh, because I'm in full screen mode. No, sometimes having 2 monitors is not beneficial. Your game is down. I can hear you.
Yep, I'm here.
I'm picking Liberus, the Bronco that cools the lot.
Cool. All right, then. I will start.
All right, so part of the game now that we've worked over with you too, right, is like I'm not watching this stream, so you'll have to do this yourself. Is you can click on my deck, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to analyze my deck and tell me my strengths and weaknesses. Like, how do you beat my deck? And where's my biggest hole?
Okay. So it's one. Oh wow, it's had chains on and everything.
Like I said, this is one of those big fish in a small pond decks. I don't think it's as good as it looks, but I could be wrong. I could just suck at playing it.
Yeah, well, I guess it's. I mean, obviously the 3 Hunting Witches strike out. So with them on the board, and they're going to stack, aren't they? So you can just keep playing creatures out, and you're going to just generate a lot of amber that way. And even if I take them out, you then potentially with Witch of the Eye, you can just bring them back again. And that's all in the same house, so you don't have to worry about switching houses. So that's in itself pretty powerful. And then you can, well, I say abuse, I don't mean abuse, but then you've got Key Charge also in the same house, so you can smash out the amber and then just forge keys instantly. And then potentially, let me just check Witch of the Eye again. Yeah, it's any card as well, so then you can also bring Key Charge back. So it does.
You've definitely identified my biggest strength, but where are my weaknesses? Like, what is the problem with my deck? I guess I have a big glaring problem with this deck. I mean, I want you to see it.
Yeah, let me just bring it up on the decks of KeyForge as well.
Got to do this on your own at tournaments.
That's
another thing too, like what we were talking about the sealed deck tournaments, the thing that really helps you the most really is knowing the cards that you're reading, right? Like if you can identify the cards in the deck, you can better make an idea of what the strategy of the deck is and how good or bad the deck is. There's a lot of people who don't still even know what all the Call of the Archon cards are. So
yeah, sure.
For those people, go to my YouTube study because I have all of them up there.
So I guess one thing that stands out, correctly or not, but I guess your creature count is lower than average overall. And what have you got? But no, I can't spot any other obvious weaknesses offhand.
All right. So like, I'm going to ask you questions that guide you towards your answer.
Okay.
All right, so how's my amber count control look?
I'm trying to work out how it. So amber control. Let's have a look. So you have lots of sort of generation-y type thing, respected amber, but yeah, it doesn't leave you with much control of stock.
What kind of control do I have? Remember, I was talking about this a little bit earlier, right? There's basically like it's kind of like the difference between like judo and aikido, right? Like judo is more aggressive. Like when you counter strike somebody, you're hitting them, right? You're basically taking them out. That's stealing, losing amber.
Yeah. So it seems like most of your stuff seems, well, it's a bit of a mix. You got, depends on the house. You got a mixture of capture and steal.
Right. So the capture is the soft grab, right? Like that's not as effective usually. It can be. Lucky for me, they're sequiuses, right? Like they have armor and stuff. They're harder to kill. I have a lot of stuff to kind of protect around them and stuff. But like, what real burst amber capture do I have? I only have bait and switch, right?
Yeah.
So if my bait and switch goes to the graveyard and you have a way to remove it from the graveyard, you want it gone. That's like target number one, because with Witch of the Eyes, I can bait and switch forever. Like I could basically bait and switch, take a turn, do untamed things, come back and bait and switch and hold you. But that's really the only card I have that controls my amber count.
So you'd be weak against, I can't remember the name of the card, but if someone had the artifact that basically any creatures that are destroyed are purged, that reduces the effectiveness of your deck quite a lot.
Not necessarily, because I still can bring bait and switch back with Witch of the Eye.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like I can still bring back spells and stuff. But yeah, but like I definitely have a bad Shadow Suite. Like my Shadow Suite doesn't really steal as much as it should. That's what you should have noticed right away. You should have looked and said, wow, it does damage, but damage isn't really what Shadow does, right? It has a little bit of burst with a ghostly hand, but there's only one ghostly hand. So what like the Shadows package here got me too when I first got this deck, because like I wasn't I looked at the bait and switch and I thought that would be enough with the 3 Witch of the Eyes. Maybe it is, but I just haven't got to the point where I'm overly good with this deck yet. I think it's a lot harder to play than it looks. Like on paper, it looks like it should be super easy when you have 3 Hunting Witches, 3 Witch of the Eyes, 3 Sequiuses, like, you know, bait and switch. It sounds fun, but it's been a little bit of a headache, but we'll find out like how it goes here.
So I guess your strategy in terms of this deck, I mean, because of the power of Witch of the Eye, is that a card that even if you weren't ready to play, you might consider keeping in your hand, so you've kind of got a spare so that you can help?
I don't really like to hold cards in hand because that chains you, right? Like every turn that you hold a card in hand longer than the turn you could have played it is basically like drawing one less card. So if you do it, like if I play a Shadows suite and I go, you know what, I'm going to hold my bait and switch this turn and wait to use it later. And then I go into Sanctum, and then I go into Untamed, and I go back into Sanctum, and then I go back to Untamed. And finally I go back to Shadows to use that bait and switch. Was the bait and switch at that time worth 4 cards? Like, that's what you have to ask yourself.
Okay. So how would you, but how would you feel if, say, the draw meant that you ended up with 3 Witch of the Eyes in hand at the same time? And so would you
play them all?
You would keep playing them all?
Yeah, because you can't kill them all, and I can reap and put them back on the board, and I can keep you under pressure until you get rid of them all.
Well, my deck could kill them all.
Well, that's fine. And if they do,
that's what I mean. It's about that's what I mean about the strategy. That it all depends on. It's so vulnerable to a board wipe in that particular situation.
Yeah, sometimes you have to push them to react to you, you know. So it's, I mean, there's no catch-all situation for any play. There's, like I said, this is a game of micro decisions.
Yep.
You have to kind of feel out how your opponent plays and stuff, and basically, you know, bounce off of them, like how, you know, how they play, and understanding like the lines that they might take. And sometimes you even bait your person and go, hey, I'm going to get you into a situation where you're going to like, I know you're going to want to throw your poison wave at my guys to kill all my hunting witches, so let me put 2 of them out, but I'm going to hold 1 back.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, that can happen, but like it really just depends on how much of a threat I think it is for you to wipe out my board state. Like with your deck, you have 2, what was it? No. You had you had 2 Coward's Ends, right? And you had 1 Tendrils of Pain and 2 Poison Waves. And like other spot removal type stuff. Like I think you had like Relentless Whispers, or one of the 2, Nerve Blast or Relentless Whispers. And then you had, I think that's all your direct damage though, and the rest of it was fighting based off of your, you know, Brobnar suite with your angers and stuff like that. Like in Gauntlet. And then you had in Dees, you had just the Overlord Grey King is the headache for me there.
Yeah,
like he's a bad thing.
All right, well let's give it a go, and also shout out to the Wookiee, because he obviously heard you invoking him, because he's just followed. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Wookiee's good people, man.
So yeah, thanks for following along. Okay, so it'd be interesting. It's always a learning experience for me. And what you said about fishing in small ponds, at this particular Chainbound event, we had 6 players.
Hey, look, you have a Wookiee to help coach you.
Well,
don't talk about his hand too much. I'm not watching. I'm not screen sniping him. So.
Oh, as he popped in. Oh, hi, man. Welcome to the stream. But yeah, as I was saying, sort of small fish and everything. It's a 6-person tournament. But they mentioned that sort of a city which is slightly further away, that tends to be the bigger store where they get a lot more players, like easily 10 or more, and that's where apparently people bring the scary decks.
Well, that's where maybe you go with this deck next. Like you go play it there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Although it is interesting that one guy I played did say that it's only the second time his deck has lost, and I could see why, because when he was playing other people on the night, it was terrifying. He had like a board, like it was pretty much spinning out over onto the floor.
It does happen. Let's get our game.
Yeah, so start the game. Here we are. So, so I will keep my hand. And
how you been doing, Wookiee? Wookiee's also a streamer, so make sure you give him a follow sometime.
Oh, I will do that.
He's we got a pretty good community of streamers here that have been growing together, so that's why I don't Twitch as much, because I figure you guys have all taken that over, so I stick to my podcasting, and Wookiee's a podcaster too, so
yeah,
he's been teaching me. He's my Wookiee Jedi.
Yeah,
I have all the tips and tricks.
Yeah, but I came up with the catchphrase. Remember that?
This is true. You did. It was a good catchphrase.
We might be working on getting a Wookiee and KeyForge Jupiter podcast together.
Hey, that'd be awesome. Yeah, the more content, the better.
Yeah, it would be more for fun. I already have a great idea for a giveaway. I can't wait.
Nah, you must have about 5,000 decks by now to give away.
Yeah, give away a bit. But yeah. All I have to say is it involves KeyForge and Billy Joel.
Wow, it's Billy Joel sort of thing. That's pretty cool.
Billy Joel was just in Milwaukee, and he sold out the not County Stadium, Miller Park.
It's a classic. My wife hates him, I think, but my fiance hates him. But she thought my idea was great too. Billy Joel. I'm saying you don't like Billy Joel.
I think I'm too young to like Billy Joel.
Maybe. Or you're never too young to like Billy Joel.
Oh, out comes the hunting witch. Oh, and Witch the Eye. So there we go. There's the first key. That's the fastest this deck has managed to forge a key before. So what do we got? We should probably look at what's out there. So here we go. So the hunting witches. These are both pretty evil already. So what to do?
Yeah, let's just say that We Didn't Start the Fire is one of my favorite songs, and I think that I can make a whole proof of it with KeyForge cards.
So Brobnar today. Okay. So sorry, just concentrating for a change. There we go.
Concentration is not to be overlooked. All right, so
it's probably what helped me on the night, because I had nothing to lose. I'm thinking, it's my first competition, so I don't really care if I win or not, because these guys are serious. Oh, poor Bumpsy.
Bumpsy got bumped off.
Yeah, that's it. Incidentally, there's one thing I have noticed with this deck, that I have never really got out a load of creatures with it. It never feels like a deck where you just end up playing loads of creatures. It doesn't seem to suit it.
Well, notice there I discarded my Pawn Sacrifice, even though it's a really great card and it gives me Amber and it does all that damage. Like,
yeah,
I don't feel like I'm possibly basically tipping my hand to you, saying I don't really necessarily want to come back to Shadows right now, because I think that I have other things I should be trying to get to, which is obviously my Untamed, right? Like, so I'm hoping that when I discard that, I get an extra Untamed card maybe at the end. So
yeah,
the way you can really start to weigh those strategies is like, when you look at it, you go, okay, well, I pitched a card Pawn Sacrifice without using it. What did I get as my last draw? Like, what's the last card in my hand? Because that's the card that basically, that card would have been a Pawn Sacrifice if I hadn't gotten rid of my Pawn Sacrifice. So, with that said, these are the kind of micro decisions that you make in a game that basically change the effects. I barely squeaked out my game against Wookiee because key charge, yeah. fertility chant key charge. It's a danger. Danger, Wookiee, danger. Told everybody on stream that it wasn't a good idea to make the Wookiee mad. He might rip my arms.
Yeah, he's fine. He doesn't sound mad, right?
Key charge. When you opened up, I'm like, all right, he's got a key charge, but can he get there? And I didn't expect the fertility. I didn't even look at the deck list, but I didn't expect the fertility champ.
It's pretty good, right?
It's not a card you see all too often.
No. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, yeah, it's pretty good, but I thought with me going to, what was that, 9? I was pretty sure I was going to force you into Shadows. And when you went on Tamed, I'm like, he's got a key charge, but can he get to 9?
Probably don't go Untamed if I can't.
Probably not, but
But I could have been spite charging or spite fighting you too, right?
Could have
Like,
been a spite turn, or you overlook the grabbers.
Yeah, I didn't overlook the grabbers. I've done that before. I try not to make that mistake anymore. Oh yeah, grabber jammer and jammer packer both. Like jammer packer still sometimes gets me because of the way that they overlay the cards.
You can't always see them.
Yeah, it gets kind of confusing sometimes.
What was giving your hunting witch elusive?
Ring of invisibility.
I didn't even see it.
That's right.
Why I was like, why is this elusive?
Right. That's why I did. I hit it right underneath you.
Yeah, right underneath. I couldn't even see it.
I got bumped off at the coward's end.
Nice. Yeah, and if there's more than 4 opponent creatures, I just get twitchy.
Well, the good thing about Coward's End is when you play a deck like mine that has so much armor, it's like my guys are almost always dead to Coward's End. Like, it's very good against Sanctum and against like big boy Brobnars, like Mugwumps and stuff like that, because they tend to not have damage on them because they're so big. It gets crazy. I like it crazy. So who's excited about the finale for Game of Thrones?
Oh, that's tonight, isn't it? Yeah, you guys get it. Well, in normal time, it's 2:00 in the morning. It will air here.
Yeah.
I don't watch Game of Thrones, so.
I guess this season you're probably not missing much, according to most of the Hoosayers.
That's what I've heard.
But I think the series has been good. I think the last season's not been bad either. Probably not where people want it to be, so they get all pissy and poor about it. But you know what? Like, if you think you can write better, go do it. They had like a writer's strike thing, like where the writers are responding. Hilarious. All right, so here's the question for me. I think I just have to go ahead and play, because if I don't play, I'm just going to get... So this is one of those things where I have to give you that key, and I don't want to, but at the same time, I have the ability to do things. So I should take the chance while I have it. You can have 2 freebies.
3 cards, alright. Oh yeah, of course, fertility chant. Nice. There seems to be a few cards I noticed in the new expansion that are a bit like that. Sort of, yeah, you get this, but your opponent gets this.
Alright, so there we go with that. And then I'll put a 11, which is where I want to be.
Nice.
Actually wanted to be at 11, because if you were to bait and switch me, I still have room for 1 that you have to still steal from me.
Yeah.
And if you can't steal from me, then power to me, because that means I get to make a key, and then next turn I can try to win. So I think I have you in a tight spot, but we'll see. Ooh, there's the shaffles. Nobody likes shaffles. Why are you bringing out the shaffles? That'll put me down to 10, 1, 9. Oh, okay. Interesting. Put me at Sanctum. Okay, fair too. I don't even remember what enchantments I have on Zacchaeus at this point.
So let me just have a quick look here. So you've got 11 shaffles to bring you down to 10, but even if I was to use Lash of Broken Dreams, it wouldn't stop me forging anyway. But I want to do it anyway, so you have to spend more amber. I think that's all I can do. So yeah, even if you win, I've made it more expensive for you.
Why do you know Reap with shaffles?
Oh, didn't I? Ah, man. Oh yeah, of course, forgot about the. This is why I prefer playing like on an actual table, because you can't miss that stuff.
First couple seasons until they brought all the. Let's see. All right, let's see. I took a quick pee break. All right, you have me in Sanctum. So I guess
1 second, I was going to request manual mode. I'm going to do where I forgot to, and because you're storming ahead ish, I forgot to reap with shackles. So let's just pretend I did and add 1 amber, if that's okay.
Sure.
So it may not make a difference, but there we go.
All right. So for me, let's see. So it's still my turn.
The Wookiee spotted that one. He's clearly he wants you to lose after the.
Oh, of course he wants me to lose. He's a hateful Wookiee.
So what can I do? Look at that board. So I think it has to be Shadow's turn.
Does it, or can it be a dis turn with your lash?
Well, it could be.
Just saying. I don't know what your hand looks like, so I can't give you guidance. This is where Wookiee would come in, but the lash is a big tool because it puts me off 3 amber, and that's a big amount. But you also have to remember I do have potential to like pollute the board state. If you have double poison wave, that's pretty good.
Oh, I was being quiet. I didn't want to give away any secrets.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm shooting in the dark. I don't know what's in his hand. I'm just saying, like when he says I have to go shadows, I'm like, not necessarily. Like you could easily, bypass.
It was a horse apiece. This play is not a bad play either.
Mm-hmm. The bad play is he left the Witch of the Eye on board. That's not something you should have done.
Well,
because that's going to cost you the game.
The other way is going to hurt him too. So
yeah, that's fair.
If he left 2 Witch of the Eyes on board.
Yeah, I probably get there too, right? Like.
There's the key charge.
Yeah.
But I guess close then, right? Is if you hadn't had the key charge?
Possibly, but I had bait and switch and nerf blast in hand too.
Okay.
Like, it depends. Like, the game is obviously a lot different if I don't give myself 4 more amber and give you 2 amber, right? But yeah.
Hey, good game.
Yeah, pretty good. Could go again if you like.
No, that's okay. No, that was useful. That's really useful. To get a feel for the sort of you had a deck with a lot of tricks basically.
Yeah, like a lot of like this deck on paper looks like it should be fantastic, but it just like I've had a hard time adjusting to it. I might have played it better against you because I was actually thinking more to try to help you figure things out, but yeah. The deck has holes in it, and like I said, like if you go into like a good amber rush against me, it's like hard for me to do anything because I only have really bait and switch and a bunch of Sanctum guys, and if you keep putting continuous pressure on me, I can't get away from my Sanctum house. Like I have to sit and reap and capture until you win, because eventually you'll just kill the creatures that have all the capture on it, and then I'm out of luck.
And that's what unfortunately didn't come out in the wash this time. But my second Coward's End didn't get drawn, but I had loot the bodies in hand. So that I could have that would have been a good play.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Hey, that's really cool. Nice. So yeah, it's a lot to learn, and especially ahead of the sealed competition. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that for the sealed, you don't get to look at your opponent's deck listing.
You do not.
So that's interesting in itself.
Yeah, because you're playing in the dark. So that's where I said when you play sealed, I think it's the purest form of the event, because like me knowing all of the cards for Call of the Archon, when I go to a sealed event, I do really well because when I see the houses, I know where my threats lie. When I start seeing cards get played, I can feel out the algorithm. I'll go, well, normally when I see these cards played, I know that these cards might be with them. Like this, there's potential for these things, you know.
Yeah.
Like if you see a loot the bodies, you can almost guarantee there's a Coward's End. Like you should feel that there's a Coward's End because they play those together in a high rate in the algorithm. So there's like things like that, like little bits of knowledge that take you pretty far in sealed format.
Well, and it'd be interesting to see what the algorithm's done with the new expansion. I mean, obviously a lot of, or pretty much all the cards have been spoiled now.
Yeah, I'm excited because that means I have to go and start making power.
No, it is. Yeah, but it's interesting. I guess a lot of people, it's clear that people have got access to these boxes. There's bound to be people that got access to the big boxes as well. As you can imagine, there's people out there that are opening up a lot of decks at the moment that they shouldn't have yet, but do, and getting a real feel for what the algorithm's kicking out.
Yeah, the secondhand market for KeyForge is real.
Yeah.
It's almost not worth it for a main store to sell boxes early on when they can open them and sell them for more on the secondary market. But that's where, like, I guess Fantasy Flight has to put their foot down and say, hey, if you're getting these boxes, you better be selling these boxes. But it's so hard to play. Yeah,
well, it's interesting now that the meta's where it is. Like, it's basically, as you just said, people have realised that that's the trick, especially with some of the crazy prices that we've seen. I don't know what the record is, but I think we've seen $2,500, haven't we, for a deck?
2,600 now. Like there's a double, or it was triple battle fleet with 2 key abduction.
So this is just see these decks. Well, I'd assume they're going to turn up at a vault or somewhere.
I'm assuming that the new set, from what I've seen so far, doesn't have any major combo because you no longer have library access, which is 80% of most combo decks.
Yeah. Clearly they're removing everything they feel is not ideal.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there are others. Like Battlefleet was definitely a combo maker too, but they've readjusted that a little bit. So I think they still want there to be potential for like a big turn combo, like where you can get a key, maybe like 2 keys in a turn kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they're trying to keep you out of the loop, like not letting you loop. Because I mean, they're bringing Time Traveler back, so that was an interesting thing.
A bit.
No, it's not a loop card. It's just it's an efficiency card, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's the kind of thing they do encourage. And for Logos, that's fine. Like I think that's fine because that's what Logos does. It's efficient. All the other creatures in Logos aren't really that scary. So, like, what they do is they archive and they basically build board states like that through cards advantages and stuff. So, with that said, that's that. But like, I think they did right by getting rid of some of the stuff. But they did leave the Nepenthe seed in, and that could be something that probably is not the best of things.
But I guess it depends on, they're no doubt tweaked the algorithm as well, so these cards may stay in, but what are they going to be comboed with now?
Yeah.
Well, I think
that seed in itself is fine. I mean, just going to get a card back, that's pretty sick, but I mean,
okay. But what happens when you team like a double Nepenthe seed with a Battlefleet style card like Martian Generosity?
Do they keep Battlefleet in the new set?
No, but they have Martian Generosity, right?
Yeah.
He's right there. He's coming down.
Your Ember's all gone then. Once you played it, your Ember's all gone.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You can't Nepenthe seed and then play Martian Generosity again.
Yeah, that's true. But you could wait till next turn, generate Amber. Or you could generate Amber in between and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose.
I don't know. There'll be something. They'll find something that's going to be crazy and stout, and you'll hear about it. People will cry.
Yeah, probably be me.
No.
Listen, guys. We'll leave it there for this stream. I really appreciate both of you jumping on. That's really, really cool. Obviously, everyone should check out the 5th Planet KeyForge, which is on screen now. The Wookie, do you have a site you want to plug?
Oh, Wookie is on and off.
Oh, he's on and off. Okay, so I'm sure he does.
I had myself muted, so you couldn't.
Oh,
so I'm sitting here talking and nothing's coming through. You can check out Archon's Corner on Spreaker or the Twitch channel. It's just _the Wookie.
Cool. All right, I'm sure people do that. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. Yeah, it's been entertaining, and no doubt there'll be other streams and stuff coming up. So it'd be good to have both of you on board for those. So I think there's a lot to learn.
Yeah, we look forward to hearing your reports from the con too.
Yeah, it should be good, and especially the Thursday nights. I get to go to the press preview, so I'm hoping that means I can not just the KeyForge FFG stuff, but all the guys selling tokens and bits and pieces will be there as well. So it'd be good to have a good look at that.
I'll be there to encourage your stream.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be trying to get as much content out there as possible. Actually, got an email from FFG today, just confirming the rules, because the one thing I've got to follow is I'm not allowed to. I can't video my own games.
Right.
Is that technically counts as note taking, which you're not allowed to do in the rules.
Right. And you shouldn't really ever be over the top of a game that is like you can stream the game that you're watching, like show it, but you should never be commentating about it while you're at the table.
No, and that's exactly right. So yeah, you've read my mind in the sense of when it's set up, once I've obviously checked with whoever the two players are, it's okay.
Harlan?
It would be the case where any of the Twitch chat or whatever, the players don't get to see that, and I don't comment on it. So it's just purely like it should be an invisible process to them, other than the fact there's a camera there.
Right. So it'll be fun though. Like you'll enjoy it, I'm sure.
Yeah, especially the sealed stuff. I mean, they're doing all the side events, so there is Archtron as well. So there's a whole mix of stuff, and it's basically 3 days worth of games, so it's going to be pretty intense. Cool.
Yeah.
I
was debating going to Ohio here for our cons here, or Illinois, but this whole like get a badge to get to pay to go in and like pay insane amounts of money to play in a KeyForge tournament, since that's all I'm really going for.
Pay more to play KeyForge.
I'm not going to do that. I've decided I'm just going to boycott until Philly, and hopefully at Philly they get it right.
No, it's
but at Philly it's cheaper for me to travel, so it's not as bad.
It's completely the same deal here in the UK. So it's been held at a board games con. So basically you have to pay pay for each day, so whatever the entry fees as well as the KeyForge fees as well. Which can just be 1 day.
They've already said that we're not trying to go to the cons.
Yeah, they did.
You got to pay twice, which is kind of
yeah. I think what you're going to do is you're going to see somebody start to kind of run like an SCG type circuit, like Star City Games, if you're familiar, from Magic, where it's like you're going to have like a secondary party that runs tournaments strictly on KeyForge, and like you'll go to the sites to play the KeyForge tournaments.
Well, they already have the secondary party in Cascade Games. Just Cascade has to get it done.
Right, but that's the problem. Like they're con heavy, so like I don't know. We'll see what happens.
I think,
and then if they don't use Cascade, I know that like the guy that runs KeyForge events, Arthur, he will be doing something probably to trying to get something started. So I guess we'll see where it goes.
I think there's a big advertising strategy here, because I think I might dig out the picture, but they're already at the UK con. It's a massive board games con where people just go along to play all sorts, but FFG are giving out free posters which anyone can have, which is like if you're looking for players for your game, you can put up this piece of card, but they're all sponsored by KeyForge. So in looking for players, this is sponsored by KeyForge, and they're doing massive KeyForge demo game sections as well. So I think part of it is a whole advertising push of, hey, here's this thing called KeyForge, just come and play it. You can just sit down and learn it right now. You just need, it'd be all the selling points that we all know and love about KeyForge. That hey,
take it off. He did.
You can just have a deck, and away you go. So I think that's part of their plan.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, I mean, there's a lot of good things that could come out of this, and a lot of things that might not be as good. It really depends on what they want to do and like what their appetite is for it, right? So. Yeah,
I think so. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your time, and have a great evening, and especially enjoy Game of Thrones.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later then. So thank you for having me on your show.
Hey, no, that's an absolute pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.